Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand the closing action on the D Street. Well, if you look at the Nifty, it's actually seen some softness after those 6 days of consecutive record high moves that you've seen already. Even yesterday's trade, we actually saw newer highs coming in, and today morning again, that record high move continued. But right now is when you're actually seeing some profits being taken off from the high point as well. For today, the markets have actually hit a record high of 26,277. So that's the intraday high level that we are looking at right now. 1/10% lower in trade for the Nifty, and even the Nifty Bank is something that has actually slipped about 1% lower now for the Nifty Bank. So they are now in a back foot. Remember, it was the Nifty Bank stocks, especially the private banks and the financial services stocks, that have been giving the markets a huge push for these last 6 days odd, when the markets were continuously scaling newer highs. What is still holding up today is oil and gas space. That's up by 2% now towards the end of the session. Pharma has come back strongly, 1% up in trade. PSU banks are holding up about 1% higher in trade. But look at the IT space. Remember, this was the winning space right in the morning after that Accenture's revision on the upward guidance. Now you can actually see the Nifty IT still holding up, but just about 0.4% odd in trade. Let's look at what the broader markets are doing. So the small caps are holding up, flattish with the positive bias, but the mid caps are down in trade. So it's a mixed action as far as the mid cap index and the small cap index is concerned. On the Nifty, you have the top movers like BPCL. That's up by 6%. 366 levels is what you can see here. Cipla, Sun Pharma, Reliance Industries, Hindalco, Coal India are the other top winners as far as the Nifty is concerned. On the downside, you have Power Grid. That's dragged about 3.2% lower now. Bharti Airtel, that's lost ground about 2.3%. Kotak, Hero Moto, ICICI, HDFC Bank are the other top laggards in trade. But the PSE index was also coming back strongly, 1.4% higher for the public sector enterprises index, of course buoyed by this entire oil and gas names, especially the downstream names as well. Let's now welcome our guest on the show. We are now joined by Ruchit Jain. He's the lead research analyst of 5paisa.com. Warm welcome to you, Ruchit, and thank you so much for taking the time out. Do tell us, how are you looking at the current market setup and this volatility towards the end of the session now?
Yeah, hi, very good afternoon, Sakshi. So Sakshi, there is no doubt about the broader trend, which still remains positive for the indices. Some of the sectors are supporting the index higher. But the only thing that we are watching out is the overbought setups on the technical charts and the long heavy positions by FIs. Now we have seen the rollovers yesterday. The rollovers are in line with average, or a bit better than average, which indicates that long positions have been rolled over. And if you look at the bifurcation, then the client section, which includes the retail traders and HNIs, they are still short. In the last 15 trading sessions, they had the short positions which have been rolled over, and their long short ratio is still around that 34-35% mark. And this entire up move, which has been more driven by FIs long positions being formed, have long short ratio around 80%. Historically, we have seen that whenever FIs long short ratio reaches that 82% mark, those positions are considered long heavy, because when you have 80% of the positions already in the long side, the room for creating fresh new longs is very less over there. And on the other hand, the client section are not bullish, because and hence they have not been forming long positions. So this indicates that we may see some profit booking in the near term. There would be some of the sectors which may keep the index momentum or the index in a consolidation phase, but stock specific profit booking could be expected. So we are advising our clients also and short-term traders that these are good levels. 26,270 is the resistance as per retracements. Positions are long heavy, so these are good levels where one should look to book profits on trading long positions and take some money off the table.
Okay, got it. So that's the view that's coming in. But let's discuss the stocks which are actually into thick action now, Ruchit. Oil and gas story and stocks like BPCL zooming ahead in trade. How are you looking at the trend developing from here on?
So the OMCs, I think, they are in an uptrend. We have seen a consolidation of about 6 to 8 months is the month of February. And then the high top, high bottom structure has been resumed now. And the good thing is that the price volume action is good, and the falling crude oil prices, which we have seen recently, I think that are also that is also a positive factor which are driving the stocks higher. So I think BPCL, HPCL, IOC, all the over 3 OMCs are looking positive, and they could continue their uptrend.
Okay, got it. Let's also discuss some more ideas then. I think Sun Pharma and Cipla both are now zooming ahead in trade, and pharma space itself is also up by about 1%. Anything looking interesting to you, Ruchit, within the pharma pack? What will outperform from here on?
So Sun Pharma looks that it has taken the leadership to take the index higher, and that's where the outperformance could continue. In last 1 month, we have seen a gradual up move in Sun Pharma, and in fact, even at current levels, although the stock has already rallied in recent past, but still even at current levels, we could observe good volumes along with the price up move. So, which is an indication that the uptrend is likely to continue. So, the entire sector, I think, could show some relative outperformance, but within that, the leadership will continue with stocks such as Sun Pharma.
Okay, Sun Pharma may continue to lead the kind of moves that we are seeing in the pharma space as well. Let's look at the broader markets. There are many interesting names that are actually doing very well here. So look at Parag Milk Foods, that's also a buzzing in trade, about 6 odd % higher for now. Then you also have some insurance name like Go Digit is actually zooming ahead, 7.5% higher, long haul for this one. Vakrangi has continuously been in thick trade. It continues its upward momentum, almost 9% higher in trades today. Then there are also, of course, sugar stocks that have been in the sweet spot right from the morning. So you have Sri Renuka Sugar, you have Ugar Sugar, Awadh Sugar, Balrampur Chini, all of them up in thick trade. So let's discuss with Rujit, is anything looking which sugar stock do you think investors should add to their portfolio to add a touch of sweetness now?
So sugars definitely looks in a sweet spot. Well, these are some cyclical names where when the cycle turns in their favor, they can give very good returns in a short period of time. So I
Yeah.
think the whole sector has seen a good momentum today, but one can clearly see that outperformance or the leadership over here is from Balrampur Chini. It's not only in today's trading session where we have seen a sectoral move, but Balrampur Chini has been showing some good strength since last 1.5 month itself. So this is clear showing no signs of leadership over here. So I think if one has to choose some, then definitely one should stay with the leader where the risk reward becomes favorable. And in terms of any kind of down moves, I think the downside should be limited in stocks such as Balrampur Chini.
Okay, got it. So that's as far as the sugar space is concerned. Let's look at Sobha Limited's partly paid up shares also. Sharp momentum here, 23.5% higher in trade for this one. Sequent Scientific is interesting. It's up by almost 15% in trade. There is a very strong move that one can see here, and this stock has actually come back after a long haul, and it's shot up pretty smartly in trade today. Let's also look at some of the other stocks which are also on the buzz. You have Pfizer again playing part in today's trade. Force Motors from the auto space is also an interesting one to look at. This stock is almost up 9.8%. Ruchit, we've been seeing Maruti take the leadership. We've seen before that Bajaj Auto take the leadership. Between that, we also saw M&M take the leadership when the Thar bookings were up and about as well. So the momentum has consistently shifted between these large cap auto names, be it four-wheelers and two-wheelers. Now with this fresh move emerging, where exactly would you keep your focus?
So overall auto space, earlier we had seen that the two-wheeler stocks, were outperforming stocks such as Bajaj Auto, Hero Motoco were there. But in this week, stocks such as M&M Maruti has again, taken that outperformance leadership, and what we are expecting that this uptrend is likely to continue there. So I think stocks such as M&M is there, Maruti is there, they would continue to uptrend. But only thing is that in last few trading sessions, they have already seen a good run up. So one should keep a buy and dip approach, for these stocks. Anytime if we see some declines or corrections to retrace the recent up move, then one should use that dips as buying opportunity, and not advisable to chase over here. But yes, buy and dip strategy can be kept in Maruti and M&M.
Okay, got it. So that's the view that is coming in. Let's look at the Nifty next stocks. What's buzzing here? Now, well, beyond the PSU names within the oil and gas, you have Geo Financial Services that's doing well today, 3% higher. In fact, Reliance Industries is also an interesting pick from the Nifty space. It's actually come back after a long haul. You can see smart gains coming in on Reliance Industries. Then you have REC also doing very well in trade. Some of these power space stocks are actually participating in the trade as well. When we're talking about geofinance, look at the entire NBFC space. Reliance Home Finance is up 5%, Sundram Finance is up 4%, Edelweiss Financial Services from the broking space is up, Geojit is up in trade, Nuvama Wealth is up in trade as well. You have Bajaj Twins also doing very well right now. So the entire NBFC space, Ruchit, and the broking space, they have been in very thick action over the last 2 or 3 series, I may say. Do you think even now there is some opportunity for investors to get into this space, or is it too late now to jump on the bus?
It all depends upon the time frame. If one is looking from a very short term perspective, then I think one should not look to chase the stocks at higher level. But rather, if you get any consolidation or some dips, then one should look for buying opportunities on dips. But yes, if one is looking from a longer term perspective, maybe at least 2 to 3 quarters point of view, then definitely, still the risk reward ratio is favorable. In some of the NBFCs, such as Bajaj Twins are there, where we have seen a good up move, off late. Shriram Finance has given a decent up move, in last few trading sessions where the outperformance could continue going ahead. But no, at current levels, I would suggest that if one is looking for fresh buying, then they should have at least 2 to 3 quarters viewpoint. Otherwise, from a trading perspective, these are stocks which should be bought on any kind of dips or consolidations.
Okay, got it. So that's the view that's coming in as far as the NBFC space is also concerned. Let's also look at the PSU banks. Can Bank is up by 2.6% today. PNB, Bank of Baroda, they're showing some signs of picking up. Remember, this entire week we have seen PSU banks return a bit. Do you find confidence anywhere, Ruchit, within the PSU banks? They have been a big laggard space in the previous 2 series, so to speak. But do you think anything will come back? Remember, going forward in October, we're also looking at the RBI's policy that will again talk about, some hints of rate cuts happening. It's already happened in US. There are building up hopes that back home we will be seeing the starting of rate cut cycle. Will that propel these PSU banks out of slumber?
So these stocks have not performed post the election results. If you look at the move after the election results, most of the sectors have rallied and formed a new record high. But PSU banks have not performed in this phase. And in fact, even if we compare with the bank nifty itself of last 15 days, last 2 weeks, the banking stocks up move, the banking index up move has been more led by the private sector heavyweights. So I think maybe some trigger is required to take these stocks higher. As you said, the RBI policy, maybe one of the trigger where if we see some positivity coming in, then we should see some recovery in the PSU banks. State Bank of India, I think one should keep a close watch on their stock, because usually we see that leadership comes from heavyweights such as SBI. Then the follow-up move comes in the mid-sized name. So State Bank of India, right now the stock has resistance around 812 to 815 zone. So if that gets surpassed, then we could see some good momentum in SBI. And once the momentum starts from this heavyweight, then I think follow-up move should be seen in the mid-sized name. But maybe RBI policy would be the trigger, which should be watched out for entering fresh into PSU names.
Okay, got it. So that's the view that's coming in. 313, and we have lost about 30 odd points on the Nifty right now. Let's look at some other interesting pockets which we can actually ask Ruchit to comment on too. Ruchit, let's also look at these power majors, power financiers as well, PFC, REC. After a long haul, they are, getting visible in the moves that one really looks at into the number of stocks that are performing. Do you think another fresh momentum could be in the works for these two stocks, or is it just a dead cat bounce?
So as of now, I would like to see this as just a bounce back, because the momentum readings are in oversold zone after the recent correction, and the pullback move could see in REC towards 580, 590 range, whereas PFC also could see some 3 to 4% of bounce back. But one needs to monitor the volumes action happening in this up move. If the volume increases significantly, then one can expect a resumption of the uptrend. Otherwise, pullback move only should be seen in this up move.
Okay, FNO space is also showing us some interesting names. Polycab India is looking interesting to me. After a long haul, this stock is actually caught on to the momentum. Ruchit, what's next for Polycab India?
This chart sector looks quite bullish. The stock has been consolidating in the range since the start of July, and this entire consolidation 6,900 had acted as a resistance. Now today the stock has given a breakout above that 6,900 mark. The volumes are better than average if you compare to the daily volume. So I think the stock could again head towards 7,300 kind of range in the near term. So it looks positive. Towards 7,300 one can expect levels.
Okay, got it. So that's the view as far as Polycab is also concerned. One more name which has struck my attention within the FNO is Exide Industries. There was a time around elections when Amara Raja Exide, there was no looking back, and every day these stocks were actually rallying sharply. After a bit of consolidation, the stock has again come back today. Volumes are also strong, for 5.3% higher at 496, 497 odd. Does Exide have more momentum that could be chased from these current levels?
So I think April, May, and June were 3 months where we saw that very sharp up move where the stock rallied from 300 to 600 kind of levels, and within 3.5 months, the prices had doubled. So since then, we have seen some correction, but good thing is that in this entire correction, we have not seen any kind of high volume based sell off. So I think just because that stock had rallied very significantly in a short period of time, it has gone through some corrective phase. And today's price action again looks positive because the oversold setups are getting bought into. So if one is looking from a mid-term perspective, then I think these corrections are good opportunities to create fresh long positions over here.
Okay, got it. Right, so that's as far as these battery spaces are concerned too. Let's look at what is actually looking good within the broader markets as well. Even though the index is itself down, look at an SJVN. That stock has actually sprung up 7% higher for this renewable energy focused company too. We were just discussing PFC, REC, and when we also discussed the renewable energy space, SJVN really catches the attention. It's been one of the favorites of all the traders. How are you looking at SJVN and this bounce that we are seeing for today, 134.6 odd levels? It's at the day's high level now.
So the stock has gone through some corrective phase in last 6 to 7 months. I was just looking at some historical data in the month of February. The stock was trading around 130 kind of levels. And we are at the end of September, still the stock is around 130, 135 range itself. So clearly indicates that a time-wise correction has been seen in the stock. But if you look at the longer term charts, then this just seems to be a corrective phase within the long term uptrend because before February, in that 2 or 3 quarters, I think the PSU space stocks have seen a very significant run up. So I think here the downside seems to be limited from a mid-term perspective. 123 followed by 115. These are two very strong short to medium term supports for the stock. Till there, those are intact. The trend does not seem to be negative. So whenever the stock comes around these support levels, you would see some buying interest coming in.
Okay, got it. One more interesting stock I will just pull out for all our viewers, and that is Barmer Lorry. Let's pull up the stock of Barmer Lorry to see how the stock has really shot up in trade. Remember, viewers, we were talking about this stock right in the morning too. When our stocks to watch, it's been a spike, I think, in just the last few minutes, 4.6% higher in trade today, and 275 odd levels can actually be seen here. How would you look at Barmer Lorry right now? I'll try and pull out the news flow. But Ruchit, what do the charts really suggest to you for Barmer Lorry?
So similar to what we spoke about SJV and that this stock too has gone through some corrective phase in last few months. But this entire correction just seems to be a time-wise correction, and the stock has good support around 250, 260 range. So just because the stock was around its support, we witnessed some good buying action. We could see some up move towards 295, 300, but it needs to surpass that 300 mark for a resumption of the broader uptrend.
And I think the news that you need to track is that Barmer Lorry has planned 700 crores capex to diversify into ethanol production, and that's happening right before the sugar season starts. Remember, that's in October too, and this news has suddenly got into buoyancy because the government has been continuously focusing on ethanol and its usage in sugar and oil as well, on crude oil as well. So look at this as an opportunity, and therefore the stock is also buzzing in trade. Let's again look at some other majors. Okay, within the energy basket, Coal India today is actually doing well, 517, 2% higher for this one. Would you look at Coal India at the current levels, Ruchit?
Yeah, I think structure looks positive from a short-term perspective. We have seen the prices getting corrected from 540 to 475 odd levels. But again, like every time we see that some of these PSU heavyweights, be it Coal India, ONGC, Whenever we see some 5 to 8% of correction from the highs, this stock again witnessed good buying level, buying interest. So I think that's what indicates that the downside price-wise corrective phase, the downside seems to be very limited from here on. So I think one can look to accumulate even at current levels and keep some room that if we get any dip towards that 490, 485, which was the recent swing low, one can look to average out more over there.
Okay, got it. So that's the view that's coming in. Let's look at, real estate sector is actually lower in trade, but Brigade Enterprises is actually zooming 7.3% higher for Brigade. Does anything look positive here in terms of momentum that should be chased here, Ruchit?
Momentum is positive, but won't recommend fresh buying over here because the
ठीक है.
support for the stock, if we see, then is coming around 1300 kind of level. So, in
Hmm.
terms of stop loss, it would be too far for short term trading. But yes, if any existing long positions are there, then the trend seems to be positive. Price up move supported by a good volume today, even though the sector is not doing that well. The
Hmm.
stock is up by 7%, which clearly shows a relative outperformance. So, any existing long positions are there, then they could continue to hold on to the stock and no, for fresh buying, I think if you get any kind of declines, maybe next week, then one should use dips as a buying opportunity.
Okay, one should use dips as a buying opportunity only, not now in the current levels. That's the view that is coming in for all of you. Okay, it's 3:21, just the right time, Ruchit, to help us and our viewers with any BTST, STBT trades for today. What would you say?
So I would go with OMCs itself because the trend seems to be very strong in OMCs. No IOC, I would recommend for BTST, where we have seen that relatively compared to BPCL and HPCL, the stock has not performed much in last few weeks. But I think here today the kind of volumes have been seen in the stock, some catch-up move could be expected in the near term for IOC. So at current levels, one can go long in IOC with stop loss below 173 and expect targets around 190 odd levels.
Okay, so that's the view that is actually coming in on the BTST trades right there. You know, we've been discussing this power theme, and one stock which again catches my attention from the renewable energy space beyond PFC and REC. How can we forget IREDA? It's actually come back after a long haul, 4% higher, and you actually look at the stock at 233. You know, Ruchit, you've come often on daily calls as well to address our stock market queries on our viewers' queries as well. The way everybody had been holding on to IREDA at 280, 270 odd levels, the questions that have been pouring in almost every day because people have been so stuck at those higher levels, and there has been no sight and the stock has been absolutely sideways. Does today's momentum give you any kind of a hope there?
So the good thing is that in this entire correction, the 100-day exponential moving average has acted as a good support. We see this average usually as a midterm support level. And if you look at yesterday's low of around 217, 218, that exactly matches with that average support. So here seems that the if 217 gets, if this support is intact, then we could see a resumption of the positive momentum very soon in the stock. So no one should keep holding the stock if even the bought at higher levels. These are not the prices where one should look for any booking any losses.
Hmm.
217 is a very crucial support for the stock, and the stock is right now trading above it.
Okay, got it. So that's the view. Okay, one more space which is actually in the thick of action is the textiles and the apparel space again after a long haul. Kitex Garments is up 5%, Donia Industries is up 5% today. You have Gokaldas Exports, that's 3% higher, Zenith Exports, that's up in trade too. Then you have some of these mill stocks also up in trade. Vedant Fashions at Manyavar is also up and about, I think 2% higher in trade. Ruby Mills, Surya Lakshmi Cotton Mills is up in trade as well. The entire space seems to be thick. I was trying to spot even Raymond because Raymond had actually started off the textile move in this year when it had actually got a one-way move. Anything looking interesting in the textile or the apparel space, Ruchit, to you?
So if I look at some of the stocks, then Century Textile, of course, not a pure textile play. It
Hmm.
includes real estates as well, but this is one stock where the chart structure is quite bullish. Recently, if you see in the last 1.5 2 months, that we have seen a price up move supported by very good volumes. Consolidations or correction have not seen any kind of volume-based sell-off. So I think this is one stock where if one is looking from a bit mid-term perspective, then one can expect the outperformance to continue.
Okay, got it. Let's look at Trent also. Remember the NSE Rejig is going to be taking place. So a whole host of these stocks are actually buzzing, which are impacted with this. So we do know how trend is important to track with respect to that, because of its inclusion that will start getting reflecting from September 30th onwards. It's absolutely flat, 0.58% of a move on the downside. But let us look at some of the other stocks. Let's look at BEL, for instance. That will be in focus. ONGC has shot up 1% higher. BEL is 0.6% higher in trade. Marico will be in focus. Coal India will be in focus. Some of the inclusions, Macrotech Developers is 6.7% down from the real estate space. All of this is the NSE rejig impact. Ruchit, anything that you should be keeping on your radar with the respect of NSE rejig now happening? It's happening on Nifty stocks, on the Nifty Next 50, on Nifty Bank, as well as in the NSE 500 basket as well. There is anticipation that huge flows will be coming in for all the newer entrants that will be coming in on the Nifty, Nifty Next 50 and Nifty Bank. Anything that attracts your attention?
So I usually don't see, just from that perspective that if no flows are there, because they get usually, it's not a one-day phenomenon where the mutual funds would buy at one instead itself
Yeah.
of the fund managers, but that I think a positive impact happens over a period of time. So BEL within that space, if one is looking for fresh buying from a mid to long-term perspective to take advantage of the no index names which are new entrants, then this is one stock which is looking good. Recently, the stock price have also seen some corrective phase from the high of around 340 to 280 to 90 now. So I think here the risk reward ratio is favorable, where the downside seems to be very limited. So one can look at no BL, but again, as I said, that it's not from a 1 days or two perspective, but from a bit midterm perspective, one can buy.
Okay, one more stock, and then we will ask you to help us understand the preparation for next week. Then this stock is Vakrangi, 9% higher now. It's been continuously moving. I think we've been tracking it since 24, 25 odd levels, the way it has shot up in the recent while. Let's pull up the last 3 months chart, last 1 month chart also of Vakrangi. We've been spotting it. Not recommending or taking views in it too much. Yes, so 38% move is what we've seen in the last 3 months. Do you track this stock at all, Ruchit?
Not consistently, because it's a high beta name. Generally, when it moves very sharply on both the sides. But yes, technical structure looks a bit positive because of the volumes that have been seen in last few trading sessions. And the next resistance for the stock will come around 35 rupees, followed by 39 to 40 range. So I think these are the levels which could get tested in Vakrangi going ahead.
Okay, 328, just about to close. Ruchit, how would you advise an average retail investor to start preparing for the next week now, after this week has turned out to be a stellar one, with newer records being formed and milestones achieved on both the benchmark indices?
So new record formations clearly indicates that the broader trend for the market still continues to be positive. But no, as I highlighted earlier, that the data indicates that we are a bit in the overbought zone now, because the RSI is overbought post the recent run-up, and the FIs which have led this rally have about 80% positions in the long side. So the room to create fresh new longs is very less there. So I think we would see some consolidation or corrective phase in the next week. Correction may not be in the on the indices front, but some stock specific in the mid cap and small cap could be there. So I would advise to start booking profit, if one is having a trading positions on the mid cap and small cap, and focus more on the larger names from some of the large cap names, maybe from pharma names, where the outperformance could be there.
Okay, got that. Well, thank you so much, Ruchit, for being with us on this special edition to share with us all your thoughts on the markets. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you soon on Business Today Television. Viewers, that's towards the closing of the session. Banks have actually taken a back seat today, something that has been right in the front row, supporting the markets to achieve newer highs. Today, 1% of our profit booking can be seen, 553 points of a loss on the Nifty Bank. Because of that, even the Nifty is shutting shop at about 45 points lower in trade at 26,175 odd levels. It's the oil and gas story, pharma, metals, consumer durables, autos, PSU banks, IT. Those have managed to actually stay in the green. Small caps may be slightly higher, but the mid caps still continue to reel under some pressure. Private banks, financial services have given up. Real estate stocks, which was in the thick action, FMCG, they've also dragged a bit. BPCL remains over 6% higher as a top mover on the Nifty today. Then you also look at Cipla, that's up 3.3%. Sun Pharma, Divi's, clearly the pharma space shot up in trade. Reliance Industries ending about 1.7% higher in trade, almost at 3048, and Titan also moving up as well. Remember, next week is when we will be looking at festive cheer spreading across, with Navratri also beginning. So keep an eye out on these festive related stocks too. Apparels, textiles, consumer durables, and even the gems and the jewelry space. PSE index also shut shop almost 1.4% higher in trade. BPCL, Balrampur Chini, Excite, Polycab are the top movers on the Nifty, up over 5% to almost 7% gains can actually be seen on these stocks. But what's dragged is Apollo Tyres, PVR Inox, Power Grid, L&T and United Spirits are some of the stocks that have actually dragged lower in trade. We'll leave you at that, 40 points lower, 26,175, but no complaints. Actually, we've had a stunner of a week gone by. And we hope that the next week will also bring in tons of good news with festive cheer as well, which will push up the markets higher from here. Albeit, you need to have a lot of caution in place, because it's been a one-way up move in the markets, and some dips, if they come, you have to be very, very cautious in trade. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for being with us on this edition of Market Today. Do stay tuned. There's enough and more action that's packed for you on your screens, which will be following after the market hours.
Look at just a decade ago, the scenario was alarmingly worrisome. Just look at a decade ago. Economy was staggering and mood of the nation was shaky. From every aspect, governance was challenging for the citizen. But what a 360-degree change. Soothingly, last decade is marked with unprecedented transformation. A transformation for the better. Bharat has emerged as the most buoyant economy in the world. It is now a favorite global destination of investment and opportunity. With an ecosystem of hope and possibility, all pervasive in India,